first, let's explore the idea of this reality being this abstraction, and let's explore it with a thought experiment.
Yes.
So there's a famous thought experiment that if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? That's now been solved. It does make a sound. Case closed.
Well, the thing is, I'm actually surprised or impressed that you started with that, because that's an example I use in my classes. But how would you know about that, if that makes sense? So one of my classes at NYU, I start with that. It's a class on perception. And I say, we have now solved that, or resolved that. And the answer is the falling tree creates a pressure wave in the air that is undeniably objectively real. We can measure it. You can measure it from far away. It's displacement of molecules bumping into each other and all of that, yes? But what sound it makes depends on who's there. In other words, what...
Let me give you a premise for that.
Yes.
I'm going to give you 5 animals.
5 animals, great.
Yep. Elephant.
Elephant is great.
A bat, moth, spider, and this harmless animal known as a human. What sound do all of them
You
hear?
must have seen my slides, because those are the exact animals I use in my lecture.
Okay.
And so an elephant, for instance, has a very low hearing range. With the big ears, yes, it can hear what we call infrasound. So some cultures use elephants for earthquake detection, because an elephant can hear these very low frequencies that we would not interpret as sound. Let's say the falling tree creates a lot of power in the frequency spectrum, in the low frequency spectrum, as it probably will. Then the elephant would hear that part particularly prominently, yes. And let's say that's the case, yes. The moth, which has a very high frequency range, say 80 kilohertz, maybe to 160 kilohertz, are very high. I'm not even sure we fully understand how high, but much higher than we. If all the energy is in the lower frequency range, right, the moth would not acknowledge that something happened. Yes, it wouldn't notice it. The bat and the moth's frequency range is actually closely matched. The moth's frequency hearing range is closely matched to bat calls. The bat image the world by sonar, basically. They emit calls and they image the world that way. So much of what we do visually, they do with sound. Why? Because they hunt at night where they can't see anything. So they're like in an evolutionary race where the moth hearing is mostly tuned to hear these bat calls. Now, you don't hear them, by the way. So if you walked around at night, even here in New York, if you could hear that, the whole air would be full of bat calls. There's bats everywhere, even in New York. And so you immersively don't hear that, because there's this cacophony of bat noises. But anyway, so it really depends who's there. When a person, we have our most sensitive hearing in the about 1,000 hertz range. That is tuned for hearing human sound. So basically, we are tuned for like social communication, which is very important for us evolutionarily. Anyways, we just said human, elephant, bat, moth. Who else is there?
Spider.
Oh, spider. A spider would not notice anything, unless it hears some vibration in the ground.
Missing out.
Yeah, but spider's missing out. But the spider is mostly tuned for like vibrations in the ground, not in the air. So to make a long story short, it creates this sound pressure wave that's objectively there. A robot could hear it, or not hear it, but could detect it if it has the right instrumentation. But what sound it makes depends on the neural system, the brain, if you want to call it that. The spider, do you call it a brain? But anyway, the nervous system that the animal hears it, and it's usually bound by the evolutionary needs of the animal. So like I said, elephants and moths have a very different need, and people have a different need. So that already goes to what I just said earlier, which is that we have this shared 3-4 low dimensional space, but that was created in your head by evolution. So by evolutionary needs to survive and thrive. Survive means you maintain your integrity, you eat. Thrive means you have enough resource to reproduce for the next generation, so you can perpetuate this. But that does not mean that is what's out there. That's just what's been filtered by evolution over an unbroken chain of 1 billion years. So if you trace back your life story, if you make a movie, you would see 1 billion years of organisms that just, were born and then just made it to reproduction, and here you are, yes? But that does not mean that that's what's out there. It could be much bigger or much different. We don't know. It's been filtered mostly by evolution.